guys, we're back with another interview. As you know, we are live here at Sigma's event, and we have all the three verticals under one roof. So for the very first time, we have AGS, which is the Affiliate Grand Slam, under one roof, together with AIBC Summit, which is under the blockchain, and as well as the iGaming industry. And we have, to my right, I have Mr. Ali. He's one of the directors at Amber Gaming. He's going to be telling us a little bit about his company, giving us insights as to what compliance is all about. And hi, Mr. Ali. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me today, Charity.
How do you feel being here live, having a live event after doing all the Zoom meetings? Now we're back to doing live conferences. How do you feel about that?
It feels great. I think that's the only way I can describe it. It's just nice to be out and about, seeing some friendly faces, people that you haven't seen for a long time, catching up with other sort of counterparts, business counterparts, etc., and just seeing what people have been up to. So I think it's finally nice to be able to talk to someone without having to be in front of a screen the whole time.
Expressions and everything.
Yeah.
I agree with you. So let me just jump right into it. So what are some of the key takeaways for operators in the gaming industry for 2021?
So I think the 2021 has been a year of challenge for a lot of operators. I think we've seen on the compliance side, particularly within the UK, we have seen an increase in approach from the Commission and the regulatory actions that they take. In particular, social responsibility, anti-money laundering. There have been key topics in the past, but it was overlaid with what we had. Obviously, was the challenges of COVID. There was a greater demand for increased public protection, and this is subsequently what we saw the regulator taking an action, and it meant that a lot of companies had to strive and be at a high level for a prolonged period of time, some of these actions have continued. So, where they brought in the requirements for conducting 1 hour checks and customer interactions. These have maintained sort of post of the environment and part of day-to-day sort of expectations, affordability checks. And the penalties for these are quite severe. If you don't do that. I think as we've sort of seen, there's been an increase in regulatory actions and sanctions taking place. I believe we're going to be seeing their enforcement report coming out shortly as well, which will highlight the number of actions they've taken, license suspensions that have taken place over 2021, and I think it's going to be the same for sort of 2022. That same theme.
And why do you think learning has become mandatory requirement for operators in 2021?
It's a very good question. I think the type of industry that we work in, and having worked in an operator environment before, heading up compliance teams, it's one of the things that I saw there, and the main challenges were that we had an environment which was whether it's your AML team or your player protection, your responsible gambling teams, these individuals were individuals that had to take decisions which were based on critical license requirements. But these individuals were also working in departments where you would see constant high turnover. So people it's a very transient sort of industry, people moving from company to company or to a different country, come and try it, they don't like it, and I think that's just sort of the time that we're in. But when you have these regulatory constraints and requirements put on yourselves there's and with this migration of staff in and out, there's just a constant need to ensure that environment is trained. You have the right sort of platform, the right tools, the right methodologies as well for training, because for different departments you would have different approaches. You wouldn't expect your human resources team to have the same AML or responsible gambling training as, say, your VIP department or as your customer services. So I think it's also sort of understanding that and tailoring it to department needs. But that being said, a lot of the key skills and knowledge resides with the people that sit quite sort of higher up in the companies. So your heads of departments, your executive levels, your directors, these sorts of people. So how do you disseminate your knowledge downwards? And I think that is sort of one of the key challenges there. And with the industry that we're in, and the fast-paced sort of nature and that sort of constant turnover, being able to train or have time to build training is quite challenging. And then constantly refreshing this, updating this, and I think that's sort of where you might tend to look at an external sort of provider or a consultancy or something like that to come help sort of take and sort of shape this for you.
So you said earlier that the UK compliance regulatory body kind of have gotten a bit more. They bring out more rules. They change quite often. So last year when COVID hit, we saw that the gaming industry kind of went high. They were getting a lot of profits. They did so well in contrast to other industries due to the pandemic. However, in 2021, we've kind of noticed a little bit of, with all this regulations coming in, we've kind of noticed it's not as high as it did in 2020 with regards to the gaming industry, the revenue that was generated from the gaming industry. Do you think it's due to the stricter compliance that is coming in? They're having to kind of quail businesses, operators,
Yeah, so I think it was. I think if we, part of it, and what we saw, in like last year and this year, I think human tendency as well is a huge part to play in it, because whilst yes we saw an increase in revenues and things, actually like problem gambling numbers remained fairly sort of static. They didn't rise and go up with this. So on one angle, that's a positive sign, because actually it showed that consumers actually had restraints, they had their own controls. But then I also think another angle is that, when we went into these lockdowns sort of around the world, it's like, yes, what did everyone do? Everyone went and got a Spotify, a Netflix account thing. They went to all the online things. Once you exhausted all of those, you watched all of these, then what started to happen? You weren't going to restaurants, you weren't going to the pub, you had some additional money, and you were like, okay, I'm going to try online gambling. So some people went to online gambling. You also had those individuals, that would bet on sports. Sporting events weren't taking place. Yes, so some wouldn't place a bet. Some maybe migrated over to a casino or poker, just to continue. But then, as I say, the sporting calendar sort of picked back up. People are going back out again. I think it's only natural that we've seen this sort of just ebb away slightly. But I think the main sort of takeaway looking at it is, if you look at the stats and trends across the industry, is that yes, a lot of companies profited, did well from this. Yes, there were some companies that fell foul of regulatory requirements, but overall, I think it showed that as consumers within sort of the industry there, sort of their patterns, the way in which they do things, how they embrace sort of the online, but also their own natural levels of control, which was then, I think, shown by the studies which were sort of carried out, that again the problem gambling rates have not increased or went through the roof during the same period.